what's for you will be for you is something that I've lived with and lived by since I was about 6 years old. I remember an aunt of mine in Jamaica saying that to me. Sometimes as a kid, you see kids getting certain things and doing certain things, and like you have to do
Mm,
things at a certain time, and you don't really understand what that means. Why can't I have that right now? And I think she said
right.
that to me, it just stuck with me forever. Coming from a different background from everybody else backstage, definitely let me know there's something here that I feel like the fashion world has not really seen, and different types of beauty and different types of art. I have a radical amount of faith within myself.
I'm Jill Demling, and this is Going Rogue. Today's guest is Jawara Wauchope, one of the most visionary hairstylists working in fashion today. From sweeping floors in a Kingston salon at 6 years old to transforming his sister into a music video muse every other day, Jawara knew early on that hair wasn't just styling, it was identity, emotion, and power. Born in Brooklyn, raised in Jamaica until he was 10, then back to Queens, Jawara's unconventional path took him from salon apprenticeships to FIT, where he had his light bulb moment. What if I do hair but work in the fashion industry? He spent years assisting the absolute legends, Guido, McKnight, Luigi, and Paul Hanlon, learning every technique, every approach, every way to work with any type of hair. And that became his superpower, being one of the few people in fashion who could do black hair, white hair, Asian hair, and any hair at the highest level. In 2013, he went solo, and what followed was a career that didn't just break barriers, it redefined them. From Vogue covers to Beyoncé shoots, Jawara has championed representation, elevated black hair artistry onto the world's biggest stages, and opened doors for the next generation. His philosophy is simple but profound. What's for you will be for you, but you still have to show up and do the work to claim it. From Kingston to the pages of Vogue to changing an entire industry, let's hear how he did it as Jawara goes rogue. Hi,
Hi.
Jawara. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How's it been putting the show together for you?
It's a lot of work, and it's funny because my mom commented on a post where I went through all the first 25, and she
Uh-huh.
goes, I feel like I know all of these people. And I'm like, I feel like they're all family.
Yeah.
Like, I can picture you in the hair
Yeah.
salon as a child. I can picture your family, the energy around them. And, especially with someone like Billy Norwich, who
Yeah.
was 5 hours. I feel so close to him because I know
Right.
so much about, but it's fun because everyone's kind of stored in my mind. And there's so many connections between, like, having just spoken with Julien last Friday,
Mhm.
him, Christian, you, and Orlando. Now I can kind of identify similar feelings because no one knows why hair. You know what I mean? Because it could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
anything. It could have been acrylic paints. It could have
Right.
been
Right.
sculpture. It's all the same thing. And it's like I never understood any of that when I was on a set. And
Yeah.
people should know. Julienne's like, Anna needs to know. You know what I mean?
Right, right. It's crazy because hair is such a personal thing. It's so personal. It's not just styling and looking good. It's like you're literally holding the person's everything in your hands because people carry everything through their hair, your health, everything. It all shows.
Right.
So it's like a very underestimated craft because you're therapist slash shaman slash
I
hairstylist slash
know.
you're doing so much, you create these environments to make sure people feel super comfortable and super beautiful.
Exactly.
And you're in charge of the transformation of what that
Right.
feels like.
I know. And even with Stefan Murray or these other legends, said the confidence you have because you're using your hands so close to someone's face and they
Yeah.
can feel that energy, right? And I think you've
Energy.
talked
Yeah.
about that too. It's that
Yeah.
energy of breaking down that fear of the unknown. And it's about what they're going to be seen, and people aren't used to
Yeah.
that, right? And then it's that trust, and it comes through the confidence of the fingers and of the master doing it. I know you've been crazy busy
Yeah, yeah. It's been a little crazy, but that's a good thing. We love that.
Right,
Right
right.
now, love it.
All of us who are freelance, you just go,
Yeah,
go, go, and hope
yeah.
that sometime you have a little bit of a break
100%. A hundred
to,
percent.
yes, to recharge.
Yeah.
So, to our listeners, let me say how honored I am to have you on today. You are a true visionary in hair who has redefined what it means to be a hairstylist in the fashion world. You're not just styling hair, you are documenting culture, championing representation, and creating art that bridges Jamaica and Manhattan, the salon and the runway, and tradition and innovation. I know
Mm.
you have a large body of work, but today I want to focus on your editorial career, the magazines, the images, the covers. That is the thread through Going Rogue's podcast. So, in preparing for today's conversation, there was one quote from you that immediately caught my attention. You once said, "What's for you will be for you." And your
Yeah.
entire career seems to embody that philosophy. You didn't just break into fashion, you transformed it. You didn't just style hair, you elevated an entire culture's artistry onto the world's biggest stages. And there's another quote that really captures your mission. I don't see myself in these rooms. That means that I need to be in these rooms, meaning you want someone else to see you and say, oh, wow, he's doing it, so I can do it too.
Yeah.
Before we dive into your incredible journey, starting from childhood, which I'll give the Cliff Notes version of, I love to start there. What does what's for you will be for you mean to you now? And how did that mindset shape the choices you've made along the way?
What's for you will be for you is something that I've lived with and lived by since I was about 6 years old. I feel like I remember an aunt of mine in Jamaica saying that to me. You know, sometimes as a kid, you see kids getting certain things and doing certain things, and like you have to do
Mm,
things at a certain time. And life is just like you don't really understand what that means. Why can't I have that right now? And I think she said
right.
that to me, it just stuck with me forever. And pertaining to my career, I feel like my start in this industry wasn't as traditional per se as other artists that are based in Europe or based in New York. I definitely feel like for me, there was a very tailored path on how I got to where I got. And in doing that, I did see a lot of things going to people and how fashion was. It was the system, basically, friends worked with friends. You
Mhm.
work under someone, then you start doing your own thing. And I wasn't privy to a lot of the people in fashion. I really came in as an assistant, just bare
Right,
bones, no mom, no dad, knowing anyone. Um,
right,
so for me, it was like working my way all the way up. Coming from a different background from everybody else backstage, definitely let me know that,
right.
okay, there's something here that I feel like the fashion world has not really seen, and different types of beauty and different types of art. So I wanted to immerse myself in that world, and I did that. I always kept that in my mind that what is for you is for you because
Right. So
there were
that gave
times,
you faith. You know, you didn't lose faith
yeah,
because
yeah,
you
you have to have
believed that.
I have a radical amount of faith within myself, which is something that I think I developed from being raised by the family that I was raised with, who was really strong in their faith and strong in the sense of self. And sometimes in fashion, certain things go to other people and certain people get certain things, and you're like, okay, that's interesting. And I am a person that works really, really hard, sometimes 2 or 3 times harder than I
Yep.
see my
We'll get to
counterparts
that for
working.
sure. Yep.
I see my counterparts working, and I would just always say to myself, what's for you will be for you. And I think the trajectory of my career definitely explains why that has
Yep.
been such a big thing in my life.
Exactly. So let's get to the beginning, how it
Okay.
started, Jamaica to Brooklyn.
Yes.
So what I've learned from doing these interviews is that so many of my guests knew early on that they wanted to pursue the path they're on now. The question was always how they were going to get there. Some had
Yeah.
parents who supported them, others didn't. Norman Jean Roy told me that from the minute he picked up a camera, he became addicted to the quote, instant gratification of the do over that photography offers. Mickey Boardman said, I remember being at a supermarket when I was 10 and seeing Vogue at the checkout stand and thinking, I really want to buy that But why would a 10-year-old gay boy need to buy a women's magazine? I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted glamour. So, in your own words, let's do a little Cliff Notes version of your early years, and then I'll ask you some questions about it. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Jamaica, the island, until I was 10 years old. Then we came back and moved to Jamaica, Queens. I knew I was interested in hair when I was 5 or 6. I used to hang around the salon near my house, and instead of playing outside, I watched all the women come in and out with their different hairstyles. I was astonished by all the colors and shapes and how provocative it was. I would see how people would come in upset and leave happy, and I would always feel like, oh wow, hairstyles make people feel better. As I got older, I realized that your hair has a lot to do with how you feel, who you are, and how you present yourself. It's an extension of you. I started sweeping hair in the salon when I was 7. Sweeping turned into washing hair, and washing turned into, oh, you need to learn how to do this. I learned how to braid, how to roll a set, all the basic things, and it grew from there. So at 6 years old, you're already recognizing something profound about transformation, the way hair could change how someone felt. You said you'd watch women come in the salon upset and leave glowing, and it hit you. That hair wasn't just about vanity, it was identity, emotion, power. So that reminds me of Christian, who started working in his father's barbershop at 12, first sweeping, then soaping, then finally learning to cut. And Julianne, who I just spoke to at 16, was doing the same thing in a tiny salon outside of Paris, learning by observation and trial and error before becoming these influential artists of fashion. So you were having that same kind of early apprenticeship, learning by doing, by watching. Paint that picture for us. What do you remember most about being in the salon as a kid? The energy, the people, the smells, the sound of hair dryers, the feeling of being part of that transformation.
But the thing that stands out to me the most about that time, I was born in New York, like you mentioned, and I was raised in Jamaica. It's usually the other way around. People are usually born in the country and come to America. My mom, she's a visionary. Our family structure in Jamaica is so amazing, and the education system, and so she had this idea of having us live in Jamaica for a while, and I think it really definitely helped me with a lot of things. But bringing you back to the salon, in Jamaica at this time, there's a dance hall culture. It's music and movies and a whole movement, but it's based around music where people are celebrating all the time. And the beauty around it was anti-establishment, because Jamaica is a very Christian place in the 60s and 70s, almost like what punk did to London. It was like dance hall was like that in Jamaica. So it was like very radical, like spiked hair and out there clothes, expression of self. It was like this whole idea of like, let's get crazy, let's get wild, let's get beautiful, but let's be so different. And I think the idea at the time was, how much different can I be from the next person? How much more can I stand out? So when you're in an atmosphere like that and everyone is like, and I look like this and I look like that. And I think as a child, it was just like, oh my gosh, what is this? In the salon, it's like a whole ecosystem of the people from the dance hall culture that were going out every night and going to work in the days. But when I think about it, it reminds me of when I hear about what the punk culture was in England. Like they were really expressive in the way that they showed themselves. So then you see that ecosystem and it's like, wow, this is insane. Music playing all the time, amazing food. Have you ever been to Jamaica?
Oh, yes. We used to go to Negril all the time.
Incredible food. So it's like music, culture, people are talking about movies and shows and hairstyles and fashions, and people are making these amazing out of this world looking clothes. And I just think for me, that captivated me and it never left me.
And there feels like there's an optimism.
Joyous. It's joyous,
yes.
It's daring, it's provocative, but it's also optimistic. And it's also like, we're happy. We're so happy.
Yes.
And such a culture. We have so much different culture, and I can do this, and this person can look like this. And I just look at some of those old videos, and some people don't even look like they're living in Jamaica. I mean, some of them had fur coats, and it was like, this is an island that is 80 degrees every day. They were so out there with like how they were presenting themselves. So it's like, I just always fell in love with that. And one of the main things around that culture was hair. How expressive can you be with your hair?
Yeah.
How different can you be with your hair? How daring? The higher the hair, the more noticed you get. So I think that definitely had a lot to do with how I view beauty and how I view self-adornment, along with the fact that my family, separately outside of me being in the salons with my aunt, are all reggae singers. And they're on tours all the time and they're dressing all the time in these beautiful fabrics and beading and chains and jewelry. So if I wasn't at the shows or on tours with my mom and my aunt, I would be in the salon with my other aunt. So it's like
Oh,
glamour here, glamour there. And so I'm like highly stimulated by glamour
yeah.
and
And
different.
also just the community of women, like everyone talks about it, and no matter where they are, whether it's Christian in this little Dutch village, that's where the community comes together. It's almost,
Yes.
that's where you're taking your break, you're doing
Yeah.
self-care, you're
Yeah.
chit-chatting, you're
Yeah. Yeah.
gossiping, you're seeing
Yeah.
friends and getting beautified.
There's such a sense of community in the salons, especially the salons in Jamaican culture. It's like you get everything there, you know. Sometimes people would just go to the salons just to go to the salons without doing their hair, just because it's such a community and you can find everyone there. There's a
Right.
lawyer, doctor, there's a teacher, there's a person who's a nanny. Oh my God, I need a nanny. You found a nanny in the salon.
Yeah.
It's such a melting pot. People are in there giving food tips and oh, I use this when I do this, and people are coming in there selling. It's just an ecosystem of community. You know, I moved to fashion in that way as well, where I try to keep a community around me that supports each other. Just because
Exactly.
I've learned that in the salon at a young age too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things
So
I took from that time.
yeah, so it didn't take
Uh-huh.
long before you went from watching other people transform to starting experiments of your own, and your sister
Yeah.
became the first canvas. My
Yeah.
sister was my guinea pig. I did her hair every 2 or 3 days because I was like, let me try this, let me try that. I've always
Yeah.
been in love with music videos, what you're just saying. So I tried to emulate the hairstyles and music videos on my sister. She went to school every day with a completely different look. The teachers were alarmed, and my mother was just like, oh my gosh. Okay, so your poor sister showing up at school with a new look every few days. This reminds me of Orlando Pita's story. He would cut all of his family members' hair, his grandmother, like trial and error, figuring out the lines, and even moved on to his substitute teacher. But what were some of those music video looks that you were trying to recreate?
I've always tried to recreate music videos when I was younger, but I think by the time I was in my teens, we had now lived in back in New York. At this time, like pop and R&B and hip hop is like
Mm.
ruling my world. I'm seeing Aaliyah videos, I'm seeing Britney Spears, but I'm also seeing like Madonna videos, Little Kim videos, and I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
this reminds me of the glamour that I saw when I was young. So I would just try
yeah.
things on my sister, my poor sister. However, however, she got her hair done and she was popular. A big part of it was because she always looked great. So it worked out.
Yeah,
It worked out for both of us. But anyway,
yeah,
yeah, I would just always try things on her. I would see videos, and I was a big MTV BET fan.
yeah.
Uh, MTV BET VH1, and they would have all these shows, 106 in Park and TRL, and Christina Aguilera comes out with a new video, Mary J. Blige comes out with a new video, Beyonce, Ashanti, Destiny's Child. I'm like, I'm trying all of this on you.
I love
Some of them
it.
were tedious, like little braids, big extensions and shortcuts. I was literally switching her around and using her as a canvas for years. And then she would go out in public and people would be like, who's doing your hair? And she was like, my brother. In that
Yeah.
community, it's like, young boys at that time weren't doing hair like what I was.
Anywhere.
It wasn't as prevalent as it is in other cultures. It's like, oh, guys don't do hair that much. So that is another thing that I was like pushing through and working through within myself. And she just got noticed.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that. Oh, your sister is an angel, but
Uh,
your whole family. You
yeah.
say, my family was very supportive from day one. I come
Yeah.
from a very artistic family. My mother's a reggae singer. My two aunts are reggae singers. My other aunts were heavy into dancing. They were into the arts and hair and beauty. So I think naturally they were just like, well, great. We have another one of those. So
Right.
you talked a bit already about this artistic upbringing, the musical family influence. So maybe you can say a little bit more about that family support, because that's amazing to have
The
that type
family
of
support to
support.
me is what sticks out enough. And I think that is one of the most important things that fuel me to do what I do. Unlike other cultures, in my community at that time, young boys doing hair was taboo. It wasn't something that was supported. It was looked at as a traditional female in my community. I don't not
Right.
not
Of course.
It was looked at as a traditional female profession. If you wanted to do hair as a male, you would be suggested to be more of a barber. So
Okay.
I think my family support through that time meant way more to me than I think they will even ever know. It's almost like they were like, no, I don't care about like what the public says or what anyone says. This is what he wants to do. And I think for me, they were just like, okay, it took them a little while to, because I was doing that and I was also like into reading Vogue and, I was like, I'm going to be a fashion buyer. And I was like, no, you don't. Um,
Yeah.
but so when they saw me going back and forth between the two, it was just like, you have a talent. And they saw the happiness when I would present certain styles to them or present certain things. And my mom and dad was like, okay, the basement is a place that we usually lounge, or in that time, no one was really doing much in the basement. So they
Right.
turned part of the basement into a hair salon for me.
Oh my
And I
God.
went to the beauty supply store and bought all these irons and bought all these dryers. And I came home one day and it was like, all right, you can do hair here. Stop doing hair in the bathroom. So we'll go in the bathroom and we see all the cuttings and we see everything. And we're like, we're tired of this, but you can do hair here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do hair. That's the day I
Uh,
was like, I'm going to do hair. Because I was still back and forth for a while. I played
yeah.
basketball. I did all these things as a teenager, but I was like, that's when I'm going to do hair. And that's when the serious journey started. Support
I
from family is everything to me.
and it really is, especially as a young person. It just changes everything. It really does. But
Yeah.
so I'm going to read a quote from you. When we moved back to New York, I went to school in Queens. It's
Uh-huh.
such a melting pot, and there are so many different cultures. So I was exposed to new styles. One day, my sister was somewhere in Brooklyn walking by a salon, and the owner came out and asked, "Who did your hair?" She said, "My brother." The woman didn't believe her. Then she asked, "How old's your brother?" And your sister said, "My brother's 16." My sister had a full head of extensions, and I don't think she really understood how a 16-year-old boy had done that. I went in and met with her, and I ended up being her apprentice for a while. Then, when I was 17, my mom sent me to Florida for the summer to stay with cousins who owned a chain of hair salons. That's when I started taking clients. Okay, that moment when the salon owner in Brooklyn didn't believe your sister.
Uh-huh.
What was it like transitioning from the basement doing hair, your
Mhm.
sister as your main client, to
Yeah.
actual clients who are paying you?
It was insane. It was insane. There was a little bit of fear, but I was just so bent on making sure I was great at what I did. So in between from doing my sister and friends in the basement and going to that, I kind of went crazy and just like started doing everybody I knew because
Yeah.
I wanted to get better. Sometimes I'd be like, I would just do it for free if you just buy the hair.
Right,
or
right.
or buy the things. And because I was like, if I'm gonna go into a salon, I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And when I got to the salon, I just kind of followed the woman apprentice every day, and she taught me a lot, the basics in hairstyling and cutting and shaping. And she was an extension specialist, so then I got even better at extensions. And this is like before I was even 17. I think sometimes in
Ah.
communities, when people can see something in someone, when I showed up to that woman, she looked at me like, oh my gosh, she's really 16. I was tall. Always like, I looked very young. And
Yeah.
she was like, wow, he was really 16. And she could have turned me away and was like, he can't even work here. Legally, I couldn't work there. But she decided, I'm going to have him follow me as an apprentice. So every day, maybe like twice
Wow.
after school, I would go from Queens to Brooklyn and sit in this woman's salon for 4 hours on the days that I wasn't working or going to school. And I was just like enamored. I would see her do short hair. I would see her do long hair. And like that was the start for me. And she just, I kind of
Do you
swept.
still see her today? I mean,
I've seen her a couple of years ago, but I feel like she moved.
she must be like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I knew
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I mean, that early confidence and all those real
Yeah.
world salon reps before you were even out of high school clearly set the foundation for everything that came next. Because a few
Yeah.
years later, you weren't just doing hair, you were studying fashion, figuring out how to merge both the worlds. So
Yeah.
let's fast forward a few years. You're at FIT studying fashion merchandising, but still
Yeah.
obsessed with hair. During
Yeah.
your time there, you had a crucial realization. You've said, as I was studying, I was still obsessed. I went
Yeah.
deep into the fashion world and started looking up people doing hair and fashion. I was like, what if I do hair, but work in the fashion industry? So I started reaching out to them while I was in school, people that I wanted to work for and wanted to assist. And once I graduated from FIT and cosmetology school, I started assisting people that do fashion shows and ad campaigns. I realized, wow, there's a big business around that. So that was your light bulb moment, realizing you could merge these two worlds. But once you had that realization, what were the actual steps you took? I mean, how did you go from studying fashion at FIT to getting your first assisting jobs? Did someone
So
take a chance on you, or did you just keep
yeah.
showing up
So
until the
so
door opened?
I want to go back into the part where you're saying that I was obsessed, right?
Yeah.
There's different levels of obsession. For me, I'm an extremist with obsession. When
Yeah.
I
Me too.
obsess with something, I go for it. So, to paint the picture for you, I'm in my life when I was a full-time student at FIT, a full-time cosmetology student at Aveda, assisting in salons in Harlem, New York, and assisting backstage at shows anytime there was any fashion shows, any fashion week, anything. Then assisting in a Japanese salon that specialized in hairstyling. I did 5 things every
Oh my
every
God.
week for like 2 years. I was doing 5 things because I was obsessed. And I'm learning the different things in the different worlds, and it's all colliding and coming together and making sense. I'm in a certain class learning about statistics and buying, purchasing, and then I'm now in like a Harlem salon, definitely
Oh,
doing blow dries and washing sets and weaves. And then I'm in cosmetology school learning about anatomy and physiology. Before you go into here, you have to learn all that stuff for 6 months. So it's like all of these things came together into my life, and it was insane. It was an insane time. But then again, when you're obsessed, like how I was,
right.
it works.
And when you love it, yeah,
Yeah.
and when you love it, and I
And
mean,
then
but
from
that
there, it
drive,
was,
not everyone has that drive too. It's not easy. And, we'll talk about it when we get more into your assisting years, because a lot of
mm,
people say that this generation is just not embracing the assisting and having
I
mentors, and
I
they
think
think it
that
comes quick and it
I think
doesn't.
that's I think there's a bit of truth to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, one of the things I obsessed about once I started assisting was like, okay, there's so much more that I have to learn in this world. I think I was backstage at a show, and then one person saw me and they were like, oh, you should work on this person's team. So it kind of grew from there. The first person I worked for was an artist named Luigi Murenu.
Yes. Okay. So let's get to that. I want to talk a little bit more about this assisting thing before we get into the actual people you worked with. So I want to jump ahead to what I think is the most important part of this conversation for young artists who may be listening, your willingness to assist and the lengths you went to learn from the best.
Mhm.
When I had Gabby Carefe Johnson and Leslie Fremar on, they don't feel there's enough appreciation for apprenticeship nowadays. They both assisted for 5 to 6 years. And like them, you put in
I
your
did for
you
7.
yeah, you put in
Yeah.
your time. You've said you're the type of person when you love something, gets obsessive about it. You would study fashion magazines, figure out who did the hair, find their agencies online, and email them. You emailed for about a year and a half before getting a real answer back. But you've also said that after every show, every shoot, every flight, it felt like it fed you. So
Yeah.
before we talk about the icons you studied under, let's stay in that period. You've talked about it, that I was going to just ask basics. What kept you going during those assisting years? And why do you think the apprentice system is still so important in this industry?
think it's super important. In any craft, I think it's important to learn under someone that you respect. And as you're learning from them, to also develop things that you see with yourself. Like whoever I assisted, I learned from them, but I did not do hair like them. I learned from them and mixed it
Right.
with what I do and how I learned here in these other rooms and created my own kind of style. And I think that what's happening in the industry now is because there's not enough apprenticeship, it feels like there's a saturation of artists that are just doing hair as opposed to creating statements that feel like you're seeing their personality through their work.
Right. That makes
Sorry, I
sense.
said it.
No, that makes sense.
You know what I mean?
That
Like,
makes
what is your point of view? And I think for me, learning here in Jamaica, learning here in New York City, learning here in salons, in Natural Trendsetter, styling hair in the salons in Harlem where they do blowouts a certain way, doing hair in Midtown where they do Japanese cutting and all that a certain way, and then going to Europe and working under Luigi Murenu and Guido Palau. And
right.
I think when you put all of those skills that I learned together, as opposed to the things that I was trying on my own, it creates a style. It creates a
Right.
certain style. And I think those kind of things is what set certain people apart. I personally feel like now assistants work with you for a year and they feel like, oh, I know this job. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yes, yeah, you worked with Guido, Luigi, Sam
Yes.
McKnight,
On their teams.
Paul,
Yeah.
yep, and Paul Hanlon,
Yeah.
each with their own way of leading and creating. What stood
Yeah.
out to you about working under them? Were there certain lessons or philosophies that stayed with you, and how did their approaches differ? What did you take
I
from
think
each? Even just being on set is a whole different thing. Like when I
first of
was on
all,
my first set, you have to learn even just the hierarchy and how it works too.
I think hairstyling is one thing, but doing hair at shows is a whole different thing. It's
Right.
managing a team, it's managing the expectations for the client, it's understanding different hair types and different hairstyles and what works within a 4 hour period. Managing, supporting and encouraging people that are working with you and encouraging them to do the best at what they do to make sure that it still sits within the line. It's so much happening
Right.
that time frame, and I think people think it's about hair styling. The hairstyling sometimes is like literally the last part almost. When you have a skill and you're good at what you do, that's within you. That doesn't mean
E-
that
Exactly.
it's going to be seen on all of the people because you're not doing all of the people. There's some shows where I do all of the people, but just because I'm crazy. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like I learned so much from being with them. I learned about management. I learned about detail. When you learn hairstyling, you learn one thing and then you learn a whole different way how to do another thing. Like I learned how to straighten hair one way and I went backstage with in Europe and learned how to straighten hair a whole different way, how to create texture a different way, how to create curls and on straight hair, how to make straight hair look like it's coily. It's so much things that I felt like I learned, but the most powerful thing I think was just like team management and handling expectations and also doing things fast and efficient in a short amount of time and why certain hair means certain things. Certain haircuts mean a thing. It's not just hairstyling, it's storytelling. That's what I learned
Right.
backstage. And it was
Exactly.
great. It was
Exactly.
great.
So then in 2013, you stepped out on your own.
Yeah.
When was the moment you decided it was time to go solo? And how do you know when you're ready? What were those first steps? You've said, I learned that what I needed to improve first and foremost was my kit. I saw
Mm.
all these people with all this stuff in their kits, and I was so used to doing everything with like four things. I wasn't prepared to go to Europe the first time. I brought all my American tools. At one Fendi show, I blew the whole thing. This is very similar to Orlando's story when he showed up on his first shoot. His brother called him help with just some brushes and a paper bag. His first shoot for Vogue when he
Yeah.
showed up with a small kit and didn't know how to use hot rollers. Shoot was
Yeah.
canceled and he was 86 to Vogue until Anna took over. How did you handle that situation that you were talking about? I know Orlando left that shoot, bought hot rollers, and practiced until he mastered them at midnight with burnt fingers.
Again, going back to this unbelievable and radical amount of faith in myself.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person when something fucks up, I'm like, okay, in a
Move
sense of
on.
like, okay, move on, how to make it better. I
Right.
don't go into a corner, oh my God, my
You
life is over.
can't. Yep.
You can't. Number one, I was always the odd man out backstage. I looked different than everybody else. I came from a different background. There are only a couple people. No, not even. It was me and the models that
Yep.
that I think for me, I had to go in there with a certain amount of confidence and a certain amount of assurance within myself. And even if I felt like, oh my God, I'm messing up, it was something where I just found a solution quickly. And that's another
Right.
thing I learned from going back and forth to Europe and traveling backstage. Let's find a solution
Yeah,
quickly.
the
You have
pivot
to pivot
quickly.
fast.
Yep.
The girls come from another show. It's 10 minutes to the next show. How do you get it to the next look? These things got to teach you how to pivot, which is why assisting is extremely important. It's not good to do. It's extremely important. But I feel like it's a dying craft, assisting.
No,
It's
I know.
insane. So,
I know.
but yeah, like just understanding, having a strong sense of self and moving forward in these spaces, I think kind of set me apart. And I would just do things a little faster than a lot of people backstage. I come from a place where the hairstylists were doing 27 to 30 people a day
Oh my
by
God.
themselves. So when you go into fashion and you have two models, three sometimes, and
Yeah.
it's a ponytail and you're doing this extremely clean, neat ponytail in 5 minutes, and it's taking people 30 minutes sometimes to do that.
Right.
You realize, oh shit, I have something. To me, this is coming effortless. The other background I came from taught me things fast.
Yeah, you said something crucial just before, and this is something you discovered. And here's a quote about it. There was a thing about black hair and fashion that I learned as well. No
Yeah.
one really knew how to do black hair in fashion. There were all these black models who would come in with their hair kind of done already, and they would ask me to redo their extensions for show season. I would go from the shows to the hotels doing these girls' hair. It became a thing. I know how to do black hair. I know how to do Jewish hair. I know how to do white hair. I know how to do Greek hair. I know how to do Asian hair. I know what you have to do for each type. And I saw a lot of people who only knew how to do the type of hair that looked like theirs. So that is something important, that even talking about how quick you were, this is your realization, that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have something. And you just said, I was about to ask, when did it click that your childhood skills were actually incredibly sophisticated and rare in the fashion
I was
world?
at a show and I was performing on a model. This is when I knew it clicked. Performing on a model, and then I turned around and I saw like a line of models acting as if they were like waiting but not waiting. They had started to form a line, but they didn't want to draw attention to the hairstylist that I was assisting.
Oh,
And it was a line of Black women. And I tapped the girl that I was doing, and I was like, what's going on? What are they doing?
oh my
Basically, they were waiting for me
God.
to finish. They didn't want to go to anyone else because it
Wow.
seems as if you know what you're doing and you're doing it fast. I did each person in like 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, who's next? Who's next? And
Wow.
so that's when I was like, oh shit, the skills that I had from before assisting
Yes.
stage are coming in handy in an insane way. And I think that's when it clicked to me. I didn't know there was, I
Yeah,
didn't
but
differentiate. Yeah, I
but
was like,
everyone
oh,
else knew.
when you have
I
someone with
just got
short hair, you should.
chills because that doesn't happen. The models
No,
usually it's whoever, like, you're next, and
no.
here they're
And then they
trying
would
to.
do these, supermodels, the Black supermodels, and the supermodels that weren't Black with like more textured hair would pull me to the side. Are you free after the show? I would like, I have an outing I have to do, and I want to redo the extensions. And I was, there was times when I would come to the show and I would see that the extensions were bulky. And I was like, there's a way that you can make this really small and make it look like you don't even have any hair.
Right.
So I started doing that. And I think that's what started to circulate amongst the models and make me feel like, oh shit, there's something that I have that's a little different than what I'm seeing in the
Oh
market.
my God.
Yeah.
So that awareness that you could do any kind of hair on anyone clearly became your superpower. And it wasn't long before the very world you grew up admiring started calling. So Vogue and editorial domination. I was obsessed with
Oh,
Vogue and obsessed with Versace and Moschino ads. When I saw a Moschino ad with Alec Weck, I knew I wanted to work in fashion. She looked like a doll. She had this big afro and was wearing leopard print. And I said, I want to be the person who's doing the hair for that. I know a lot of people feel like she was the first person in fashion who looked the way she did. She made a lot of people feel at home and welcomed. So I've heard and less your time because, Instagram had come up and there was other ways to show your work, but especially in the 80s, Vogue and fashion magazines, that was the only way
Yeah, the
really
only
to
way.
have a resume. So I would
Yeah.
love you to talk about what fashion magazines and Vogue in particular meant to you growing up and when you're
Fashion.
working and what it felt like to see the work because I didn't know my job was a job. And I've just heard from like a Jimmy Paul or people were studying the
Yeah.
captions to see
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Fashion magazines, I want to just go back just a little bit. Fashion magazines are
yeah,
extremely pivotal in how I viewed the world. In Jamaica, I'm going to go back a little bit and
yeah,
come.
of course.
In Jamaica, I remember in the salon one day, this woman had this book. And a lot of the magazines in the salon were like a little tattered and a little destroyed a little bit because they were there for a long time. But she had this
Yeah.
book brand new and it was shiny. And I think she had just came from somewhere and she was in the airport and she bought the Vogue and she's going through the Vogue. And then she sees a picture of Naomi Campbell inside the Vogue. And I'm sitting next to her and she's like, and she's Jamaican too. So that in my mind was like,
Oh,
in my mind, I was like, wait, Jamaican, like us?
yeah.
I was
Wow, how
like, oh my God.
powerful.
Oh my gosh. I was like, she's from Jamaican descent like me. So you mean to tell me that I could be in this book?
Yeah.
That's my first
Oh,
idea.
I got chills.
Go
That's
back later now, 16, 17. I'm at the newsstands after school buying Vogues. This is like $1, $2, $3 for a Vogue at this time. My mom gives me the money, or I'm also doing hair, so I'm like in
exactly.
school
You're
doing my thing.
working.
I'm like the guy in school because I'm working and I'm buying my stuff, and I would go to the Moschino boutique and buy like these shirts, and could only like afford the shirt, like a
Right.
t-shirt. But like for me, I was like, this.
Yeah.
Like, but so one of the things that I would do is like go to the magazine stores, Hudson Street, all of that, Hudson News, and just buy Vogues. And I would open the gut of the magazine and look at the name of who was doing the hair and the makeup when I was in high school.
Wow.
Cut to my early 20s. By this time, I have a magazine collection from
Well,
1999.
yeah, I have every Vogue I worked on
Yeah,
since 19. Yeah.
so there's a collection of what I've done
Yeah.
in the house, and then there's a collection of like what I've been having since
Collecting.
17.
Wow.
And at one point, it was like, and I've had to like put it. My mom has like a house in the back of her house. It's in there because it's like too much going
Oh,
on.
I know.
So, so that became like an obsession to me. Like, who's doing this? Who's doing that? And in my late teens, early 20s, that was kind of what made me start doing research. I would go online and see what is an art and commerce? What is an art partner? What is this
Right.
agency? What is art partner, which I'm at now?
Yeah.
I'd be like, what is this? That's an agency that represents this person. Why is this hairstylist there? And I would just do the thing and on
Yeah.
the computer and do my research. And that's how I got the numbers and the emails to start assisting. And then I started testing in New York, test shooting when this is like
Right.
there's a site called Model Mayhem. And we would go on this site and we would just be like, I'm a hairstylist. I'm looking for models, looking for photographers. And I would meet other makeup artists and photographers. So in New York, like you're doing little tests. At this time, you could test for like two,
For
3 hours.
everyone's books. Yeah. For the
Yeah, for
models'
everyone's
books, for
book.
your,
You
yeah.
test for 2, 3 hours and then you go to like school or work or whatever you're doing online,
Yeah.
right? And I'm meeting these makeup artists on this test, and you're like, I just assisted Pat McGrath, blah, blah, blah. And this is the agency that sent it to me. So we're exchanging information and like I'm emailing and I'm getting back and I started working. And so everything really starts from the magazine for me. So
Yes.
when you talk about like a Vogue, other magazines like that, it's super important for me. And I'm honored every time I'm asked to do a cover. I'm honored every time I'm asked to do a story. I'm honored every time I'm asked to have a feature done on me because it reminds me of that young kid that was like going through the Vogue with the woman in the salon and she's like, this could be you.
Right.
So
Exactly. Well, that's what I wanted you to take us to your first Vogue shoot. Do you remember what the shoot was? I mean, here, I think I might know. Was it the Amman shoot in Jamaica? You said shooting Amman in Jamaica for US Vogue was the best thing ever. It was kind of crazy because I remember being young in Jamaica and reading American Vogue. And then I
Yeah,
was in Jamaica shooting for them. That was one of the
it was
craziest
insane.
turning points in my life. So I would love to talk about your early shoots, how it felt to first see your name, and then we'll talk about one of
I
our
mean,
big
for me, it
shoots
was
together.
incredible. I don't think that was my first shoot for Vogue, but I think that was one of my first
What?
shoot for Vogue. Maybe like the second or third. And I
Yeah.
think before it was like, they have like the features where you kind of do hair for the features. And so I
Yeah,
think that was my first like
exactly.
well story shoot for
Right.
Vogue. And I got asked by my friend Oliver Hadley Perch, who's a dear photographer friend of mine, to do hair with Iman. And I think at the time, Sarah Moonves was doing the styling, and we went to
Mm,
Jamaica. And it was like, that trip was so crazy to me because I literally was like emotional on the trip because we were going to Jamaica with Vogue.
right.
And this is where I'm from, and this is where I fell in love with Vogue, and this is the island where I feel like there's so much beauty here, and we don't ever get to see it. And they want to shoot Iman in this part of Jamaica that is it.
And that's
I mean,
destiny.
just saying it now,
Yeah,
it's still
it's
like a
destiny. Let's
yeah,
be real.
it needs to be a movie.
I
Like,
know.
like
It
doing
should
that.
be.
Yeah, yeah. Just like how dreams, so such a synergy around it. And that was a very, 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 very big time.
Did any of your aunts were they able to come?
Now we were shooting in a part of Jamaica that was like maybe 2 hours away from where my
Okay.
aunt lived. But what I did do was like tack on 2 days and make sure like I stayed with them and spoke to them about what I was doing. And they were like, this is insane.
And I'm sure that issue is in every salon that you've worked.
It is. It
Seriously.
is. It
If it's
is.
not cut out and framed, it's
Yeah, Jamaicans
definitely.
love Vogue. They love Vogue.
So I want to talk about one of our early shoots together. So Beyoncé for British Vogue's December 2020 issue. It had moved
Yes.
several times because of COVID. I mean, that was so stressful.
That was an insane.
Yes, and we finally shot on September 11th in the Hamptons. What do you kind of remember? I mean, I remember that Edward couldn't travel, so he wasn't there. I
Yeah,
remember a lot of back and forth. We were all on this chain together with references, and we know that Beyonce is very involved in the process, and
yeah.
which is great. Some artists don't give input until you're on set. She
Yeah.
likes to be part of the creation. And then we didn't even know there was going to be a second day tacked on where you guys all got to go to her house. So was that the first time you worked with her?
Yes. Yes.
So what was that experience like for
It was
you?
incredible, and it was so insightful on like how involved she is in the process of every picture and what she wants to look like. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing.
So you've worked with the biggest names, created some of the most iconic imagery in modern fashion, but what's just as fascinating is how you work. Your creative process feels deeply intuitive, almost spiritual. You've
Yes.
described your approach. I think in hairstyling in the fashion world, I have a unique perspective because of everything I learned in Jamaica and in New York. I try to mash the worlds together. When I approach a project, I always try to see how I can elevate it by adding a little bit of how I see the world in it. Mixing two worlds together, I always feel like I get a better result. Doing something that's just non-traditional. I would say I'm a hybrid stylist. That's my approach. So, do you have examples of how you bring that Jamaican influence into high fashion shoot?
Yeah, honestly, for me, recently I've been feeling like I see it the most when I'm doing couture shows. There's certain techniques and there's certain things that you wouldn't normally see on the runway that I try to add a little bit of when you dissect the style, mashing the worlds together. What I saw growing up in Jamaica felt sculptural and felt so out of this world, and it reminded me of the world of couture. And that's how I see that hairstyling to be.
Yeah.
The first type of hairstyling I learned. So there's always like a little synergy there for me when I'm able to add little nods to that on the couture shows.
Yeah. You've also said something beautiful about hair, and you brought this up at the beginning of the conversation. Hair is such a close reflection of yourself. It's the most intimate thing. More than clothes, more than makeup, more than anything. Hair is the actual reflection of your health, who you are, where you stand, and what you think. I can tell you a lot through your hair. Hair is so intimate. That's a
Mhm.
profound way to think about hair. How do
Yeah.
you read someone through their hair? What are you looking for?
I think there's so many different things you can tell. One of the things you learn when you're in hair school is you can realize what's going on with someone's health through their hair. Sometimes certain shampoos that you use, if the hair rinses a certain color, you can tell what kind of medication the person's taking.
Oh, amazing.
Hair is also such an intimate thing, and I think that it tells a lot about where someone is in their life, what they're doing, what their socioeconomic background is.
Even the way it changes gray. How funny is
Yeah,
that? It
where they
literally
are in their
shows your
life.
age. Yes.
100%. It shows your age, it shows who you are. It's a part of the body that's like the outward expression of how you feel about life
Yeah.
and how you feel yourself. It's a very intimate thing, and I think like a lot of people disregard that or they underestimate what that could mean.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
or someone like me, I think it dictates most of my conversations.
I
It's
mean,
interesting.
you've said the most important skill that's carried you through it all is intuition. You grew up in a household where everything was about chakras, and your mom raised you, quote, to be in touch with your inner self. You've
Yeah.
said, everything about me is more about the feeling. I have to walk into a space, feel it, and feel what I'm doing. I need to sit in the space. Walk us through that process when you meet a new client or start a project, with that being part of your process. What do you bring with you in your kit almost?
Um, I think for me, it's more so about meeting the person, meeting the client, feeling them out, seeing where they are. I take that very seriously because I think with hair, it's wrong to put something on someone that is not feeling that way. You can tell through pictures, you can tell through videos, and it's such an intimate thing. Again, going back to like how intimate it is, I think it's good to kind of meet the person and feel them out.
Mm,
As far as my intuition, I've never been able to explain how that works. I just
right.
works and it works works well
Yeah.
and hasn't led me wrong yet. But there's definitely a lot of times that I like to meet the person first or Zoom or just feel their
Yeah.
energy out and see what they are before I put anything on them that wouldn't fit them.
Right.
Um,
No, that's
so that's
important
kind of like
for
the
the
process.
other person
That's how it
too.
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and create a barrier of safety for this person to know that I'm going to do the best to make you feel your best and not make it about me.
Yeah, and you're not doing it on them. You're
Yeah,
doing it with them, right?
right. 100%.
You've also said the one thing that I can say is that the more people I work with, the more I learn about myself. The more that I went into it scared, I left more triumphant within myself and who I am, not
Yeah,
just as a hairstylist, but as a person. I
yeah,
understood that, yes, I might be on this job to do hair, but this person is going through something. What you're
yes.
about to do may change the way they feel about themselves. So it's a
Hmm.
bit deeper than hair. Hair is the portal to that, it's a message. I think
Yeah,
what I do the most, more than hair, is feel people and use my intuition to amplify the message they would send about themselves. That's
yes.
beautiful. You know, the
Thank
hair is the
you.
portal.
Thank
Um,
you.
you've talked about this, but it's important that I hear that because
Yeah,
it's really taking the person into consideration a lot of times. And I think that's why sometimes celebrities just feel like they're not being heard when
mm,
the photographer's like, I want this. And it's like, okay, let's
yeah.
do
I think
this.
sometimes people are so enamored by the outward image and like what it means and the hype that is created, and they forget about the actual person. Like this person's a person, and
Right.
to be this every day, whether they chose to or not. And I think for me, one of my missions as I move through the world is just to create a safe space for people to let their guard down enough to let people like myself in to understand where they want to go, what they want to do, and help them get there.
No,
So it's a bit more
exactly.
about people than anything else for me.
Exactly. So your approach isn't just about creativity, it's also been about changing an entire industry. Let's talk about representation and the impact you've made. You've
Mhm.
witnessed a pivotal moment in the industry. You've said, I think one of the things that made natural hair more accepted was in 2014 when Naomi Campbell, Beth Ann Hardison, and Iman were calling out all the people that were discriminative of models of color over the years. After that, all these girls came out of the woodwork, like Alec Weck, Leah Kabidi, Linnace Montero. What I like about the natural hair movement was that they were a bit aggressive, which is what was needed. There was this time where everyone was just like, that's it. I'm tired of doing all these processes to fit into this mold and to fit into what you think is beautiful. I'm beautiful like this. I think there were a lot of women and men who are like, let's start a conversation about being the way we are. It was really interesting to see that happen. It trickled into fashion for sure. No one was seeing it in fashion or in ads, but if you open up Vogue now, it looks completely different from how it looked 5 years ago. There are many models who get their careers hurt because of their hair, which is crazy to me. I've heard some stories where people canceled models off big jobs that could have changed their lives because there was no one that could have done the hair for them. I always tried to do whatever I could to make sure that everything was all right for them on that front. If it was a situation where it was really busy and we were doing shows, I would take their information and say, when we get back to New York, come see me. What was it like being in the industry during that shift, and how did it feel to be one of the few people who could actually handle that hair when the industry was finally ready to embrace it?
I mean, it was a double-edged sword because
Yeah,
in some ways I was glad that something was happening, and in other ways I was sad that this had to happen, and this is what it's been like.
exactly.
And I think for me, it's just more so like when we forget that people need as much care and love and attention as everyone else. I think fashion had a way at that time of just like stepping over the issue. And I think we've kind of made them look at it in a sense like, okay, this has to change. And I think there's been a lot of people on that front that has helped that. And I feel like it's gotten a lot better. There's
Yeah.
still a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think it has gotten a lot better. When I was a backstage and an assistant, and I remember suggesting, they wanted this girl with super, super coily hair to have a small head. When they call a small head, it's either pulled back style or anything smaller to the head.
Right.
And I suggested super small cornrows. And I remember at the time there was like this whole snickering and looking like, oh, that's not chic. And I'm like, that is the chicest thing in the world. And I think now when you look at Vogue, not only Vogue, but when you look
Yeah,
at
of course.
runways, that's the answer to a small head for a lot of girls with textured hair. And I'm like, I said that's like almost 17 years ago. But,
Yeah. And
you
even
know,
just frizzy hair, like
mhm,
any big hair too.
yeah,
It's
and I think that people will catch up
yeah.
or get left.
You've been incredibly vocal about representation in fashion. You've said, when I started assisting people in fashion and not seeing anyone that looked like me doing it, that was very deterring to me. I told myself, you know what? I don't see myself in these rooms. That means I need to be in these rooms, meaning I want someone else to see me in this room and say, oh, wow, he's doing it, so I can too. And that kind of pushed me to keep doing and doing. I did
Yeah.
deal with a lot, but it's definitely one of those things that pushed me. That's a powerful mindset shift. How did you maintain that confidence when the industry could feel so unwelcoming? Is
I
that
mean,
the family
yeah,
that
yeah. I
you
think the support system and the strong sense of self from my upbringing, from my family, definitely. I tapped into that a lot, and just community. I also came up with a few people that came from the same background as me and wanted to make it in fashion. And, two and three of us would like band together and be like, okay, let's be each other's support system. And I think that sometimes it's great to have a great support system, especially if there's so much adversity that you're facing. I
It
think,
sounds like that confidence turned into purpose, not just surviving in those rooms, but making sure others could walk into them too. You said, if we don't champion ourselves, we fade away. If you
yeah,
continue to stand beside and see things happening that don't have you at the forefront, you become the past. So it's very important to me. And I think one of the things I learned from doing that show is the community that exists around everyone working in our industry. We sometimes move around so much that you feel alone. This industry can isolate you, but there's a community there. What pushes me to do it continuously is making sure that no one has to feel the way I felt again. But
yeah.
also my support system, constantly having family and friends affirm that, yes, you can do it, even though there's nothing like that out there. You can be one of the ones to do that. I think hair is a community. Hair for me starts with how you view, love, and accept yourself, and your community is there to help you do that. For me, there's a sense of togetherness through hair. You've carried so much of that weight breaking barriers, creating space for others, and doing it all while staying grounded in your purpose. How do you balance being a trailblazer with the pressure of representation?
Hmm. How do I balance the pressure?
It seems like your mission. It seems like a
Yeah,
mission.
I think for me, it's naturally my mission.
Yeah,
I don't even consider how I'm balancing it because it's just something that is within me. I think
yeah,
per se, it's not something that I'm like, I'm setting out to do this. I just think what's right is right. And
right.
no, we can't continue the way we are. Um, and if that is a mission, that's good
Yeah,
to hear. But
yeah.
for me, it's just like naturally just what I felt and what I would love to see. And I'm sure others would love to see that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I see the world.
And just having your name in that caption in the magazines
Yeah.
is doing it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You've carried so much of that weight, breaking barriers, creating space for others, and doing it all while staying grounded in the purpose. It feels like the perfect moment to zoom out and reflect, not just on where you've been, but where you're heading next. So this is looking back and forward. The last section. Throughout our conversation, you've shared so much wisdom. You've talked about the power of belief in oneself and self advocacy. And you've addressed how social media affects young artists today by saying social media has such an effect on people feeling like they're not enough and they don't have enough because someone else is showing all that they have and all that they're doing. But you've also shared how to overcome that. I think it's just putting yourself in the mindset of, oh, okay, that's something I'd like to achieve. How do I go about getting it? As opposed to, that's too big for me. I'll never
Yeah.
make it. I've never subscribed to that specific idea. I had my challenges, but there was the support system I had, my family, and honestly, just pushing myself to really see myself in the industry. You've said hairstyling is more than just hairstyling. I feel it's about the soul in a sense. A lot of people really connect to their hair, and you learn a lot about a person from their hair. I tell young stylists to understand culture as a whole. Watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of film, educate yourself, go to museums, understand yourself, understand your point of view. A lot of people assist other hairstylists and then end up doing the exact same work as the person that they were taught under without putting their own stamp on it. So I'd encourage them to find their own voice, find what they believe is beautiful, find the signatures for themselves. And you always come back to what's for you will be for you. So
Yes.
this is incredible advice. Is there anything else you'd want to say specifically to that
No,
young Black
I think
artist?
you hit it. I think you hit it.
Yeah,
Perfectly. If I was to give any advice, really dive into the craft and really dive into, you know, like we mentioned before, I had an obsession, I think, that kind of like had me thinking about it all the time, working on it all the time to the point where I engulfed myself in it. And I think that for me, that's the only way to really get there in a certain way, to really bury yourself in the
yeah,
craft, fall in love with it, and have
right.
to like look forward to. That's outside of what we're seeing in the world.
Exactly.
So
About the legacy you seek to leave behind, you said, I inject a lot of beauty that I saw around me into fashion now. I think I speak to a lot of people who thought those same things were beautiful that never got that representation. I feel like that's kind of what started my cycle. And that's something that I'd love people to remember about me. He went in there and changed it. Last question. I mean, you want to be remembered as someone who went in there and changed it. How do you think you've changed the fashion industry? Any goals that you haven't met?
I think for me, just bringing different cultures that people authentically lived
Yes.
into fashion and bringing the reason why people chose to do those things and talking about a lot of the references that fashion has been using for years that maybe didn't understand or know why they were doing it.
Right.
That's one of the reasons
Huh.
what changed the industry. Being able to say, I actually
Educate.
did
Yeah.
that. I actually was one of those kids that were on the street dressed like that. And like this whole street style thing, that is my high school days.
Right.
So it's just interesting to see all of that. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm very happy to grow and do more in fashion because I love it.
Amazing. So before we let you go, we always end Going Rogue with a little rapid fire. The same
Okay.
questions, same 7 questions. It's just this or
Okay.
that. And I have two just little special ones for you at the end. Okay.
Okay.
AM or PM?
AM.
Text or talk?
That was a lie. PM. Just want to see. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Text or talk?
Depending on who. I mean, I'm sorry. I would say text.
Uber or Subway?
Uber.
Book or film?
Film.
Sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Okay. Beyonce's hair or Solange's hair?
No.
Okay. Tradition or innovation?
Innovation.
Jawara, your journey from that 6-year-old sweeping hair in Kingston to becoming one of the most influential hairstylists in fashion is truly inspiring. You haven't just built a career, you've built bridges between cultures, elevated an art form, and opened doors for others to follow. Thank you for sharing your story and your passion with us today. For listeners who want to see Jawara's incredible work, follow him on Instagram and check out his exhibitions and collaborations. Thank you
so much. This was incredible.
I love
can't
it.
Wait to see it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
have an amazing day.
You too. And I hope to see you soon.
All right.
Okay. Bye. Okay, that's our show. Thanks for listening to Going Rogue. And be sure to like and subscribe. Today's show is produced by me and Maddie Rosenberg at Radio Free Rhinecliff with assistance from Maddie Kelly. Special thanks to David Vo for our great graphics and Taras Romanov for our epic theme music. See you next Friday.